Hey everyone, welcome back to the Crafty Couple. I hope you had a fantastic weekend. Today we've got some really fun Dollar Tree Christmas DIYs for you, and we wanted to apologize. Last video we had so many comments that we just weren't able to keep up with them. We really try to keep up with those and respond to as many as we can, but there was just too many with the Friend Friday hop and the giveaway. So if you don't know or if you haven't watched it, last video was a part of the Friend Friday hop and we're doing a giveaway for a Cricut. So make sure to go watch that and the other videos that are a part of it and leave a comment so you can get entered. But if you guys enjoyed today's video, please give it a thumbs up and let us know in the comments which one's your favorite.
For our first project, we're going to start out with this floral wire from Dollar Tree. It doesn't matter if you get the gold color or this red color. And then I got this wooden star from Dollar Tree as well. This one does have curved edges, but there is one that has more pointy edges. This is just the one that I had on hand, but you can use either one. And then I just went around the whole entire star, tracing it with the wire. I did notice it was a lot easier if you kind of tape it down while you're going along the whole thing with the wire. It just helps keep the wire down so that you can continue to go along the rest of the star with the wire. This is how I got kind of a perfect star shape with the wire. I did try to use a little bit harder wire instead, and I just couldn't get it to work. So this is the only thing that I could get to work from Dollar Tree, but I do love how it turned out in the end. Once you get all the way around where we started, we're just going to go overlap just a little bit, grab some wire cutters, and just clip that part right there. I originally tried to hot glue it together, but it just wouldn't stick, so I went in with just some electrical tape, and that ended up working perfectly to kind of join the two wire ends together. We will be covering this little section up, so it won't matter that you will see the tape. Once that is covered, I went in with this matte black spray paint from Krylon and spray painted the whole thing. To finish off the star, we'll be using this pick from Walmart, and to hang it, we're going to be using this ribbon from Dollar Tree. I just looped it around the top of the star, and then you can measure out how long you want it to hang. Once I had that measured, I just tied it in the bow, and after tying this, I did make the bow and the loop a little bit longer since I made this portion a little bit too short. And then just go ahead and make the ends prettier. Now for the pick, we would just be using the top portion of it, so I grabbed my wire cutters again and just took off the pine cone and the pine. Then I just grabbed a small piece of wire and I flipped the whole star around, and then I'm going to be going around the wire part of the pick and attaching it to the star. This will help it stay a lot better instead of just using hot glue, and then to help it not flip around, use a little bit of hot glue. Because it is an asymmetrical wreath, it will slightly tilt to whatever side that you have the weight distributed on. So you will want to put something sticky on that side underneath the pine cone. So I used the little pop-up dots from Dollar Tree, and that really helped it stick to the wall so that it didn't tilt. For this next project, you will need one of these cooling racks from Dollar Tree. I went in between the 6th and 7th metal sections, I guess you could say, and cut it all the way in half, and then you'll flip it around and cut all the extra little pieces so that each of the metal sections have 6 rows all the way across. Once you have those, I didn't like the little parts that stick up on the cooling rack, so I took those off. I would recommend just cutting that whole entire section off instead of the little piece, because when we fold it here in a second, they do stick out, and I just cut it off anyways. So the sections are separated in fourths, and we are going to bend the very outside fourth sections. The easiest way is to just kind of do what I'm doing here, to lay it flat and then kind of get it started, and then put your hand down and then push it up. Just make sure to not bend it past that point or else they could snap, and then do it to the other side so it makes this nice shelf look. Like I said before, I had to cut these little pieces off because I didn't cut them off earlier like I probably should have. So if you're going to do this, just cut those one sections off completely. And then we're going to do the same thing on the other side. We're just going to grab the one section and then bend it all the way. Then I spray painted those with the matte black spray paint. So the square version of these wood planks from Dollar Tree would have fit these perfectly, but I couldn't find them anywhere. So you could try and use these rectangle wood planks for the top, but I ended up just using these stir sticks that we get from Walmart. They are 5-gallon stir sticks and they're really durable, and we love using them for our projects. So to make both of the shelves, I did 6 of these stir sticks, and I'm cutting them all at 9.5 inches. We used a jigsaw to cut all of our wood, and we have really liked it, and it's very affordable. We have a link in the description below to buy the same one that we have. When those are all cut, you will want to sand them down just slightly. And then I went in with this early American stain and stained them all. These are how the shelves look after they are painted black. I really love how industrial they look. And then we're going to place the wood on top. With the 3, there will be a slight gap in the back, so just make sure when you're placing these on, the gap is in the back so it's not as noticeable. To attach these, the easiest way that I found is to lay the stir stick down and flip everything over and then hot glue it. This is one of those times that I would recommend using a stronger glue like E6000 and hot glue. But just load up every contact place that the wood has with the metal, and then you can flip it over, put the next piece on, just make sure it's even, flip it over again, and then just load up the same places with hot glue. Then we're going to add our third and final piece. Like I said, there will be the gap in the back, which you don't really notice though. And this is how the little shelf looks when it is all done. Now we're just going to do the same thing with the other shelf. With them both done, they can be stacked like this, which I do like that they have that option. I love that it can be made into kind of like a more modern tiered tray. All these decorations that I'm using are either from Walmart or from Dollar Tree. They're ornaments or just picks from Walmart, which I love. You can decorate it however you want for all the holidays, or after the holidays, I'm going to be putting this in my spice cabinet, and it's going to make a great little organization tool for me, which I really, really love.
For this project, we are going to start with using these rectangle wood planks from Dollar Tree and some early American stain from Minwax, and I was super excited for this. I loved how this project turned out. Probably one of my favorites that I've done for Christmas this year, and we're going to be creating that little house countdown calendar using just a few supplies from Dollar Tree. So the first thing that we want to do after we have these stained, we want to go ahead and start gluing these together to build our house. So I'm just going to start by laying one of these rectangle pieces down on the table, and then I'm going to glue both of these vertical sides on. And then since I'm using hot glue, just give it some time to dry in place there. If you're wanting something steadier, I would definitely use something like a wood glue or maybe E6000. After we have those vertical pieces, we can glue on this top piece. So I just ran a line of glue on top of those two pieces and then laid this flat on there and adjusted it and then held it in place for the glue to dry. And then once we have the bottom part of our house, we can move on to the roof, and we're going to use the last two pieces of that pack. And the easiest way I found to get this to work is hold them together in kind of the position that you want them to be, run some glue along there and allow it to dry. That will hold those together, but you can actually still move those a little bit and then run a line of glue on each end right here, and then you can simply hold this in place where you need to. That worked really easy instead of trying to balance them and glue them on one at a time. So I would definitely try and do it just how I did it there. And it should look really clean. You shouldn't have very much glue coming out anywhere, but what I did decide to do is just run a little bit more on the inside, just a quick line there to strengthen that on the seam. Now that we have the house part done, we can move on to our little tiles that are going to have the numbers on them. And of course, Dollar Tree likes to make things difficult for us by not doing just like an even number of inches. This was just a little over 7 inches long. So what I did was I went to 3.5 inches and marked just a little bit past that to try and get as center as I could. And then I drew a line across there. That's where we'll be cutting. Now I'm going to be using a jigsaw, and since we want these to be just about as even as possible, go ahead and follow that line right down the middle, and these should turn out to be just about the same size. After we have those cut, you can use a little bit of sandpaper to smooth those edges out, and then to try and get as close to the center for our hole. These were a little bit less than 3 inches, and so I went to 1.5 inches and then just came back a little bit and tried to get it as center as possible. And then after you mark it there, I just used a drill to go ahead and make that hole. And then once we have our first one, we can use that as a template for all of our other tiles by marking it here if you wanted to and then drilling it, or you can simply hold that tile up to it and drill through the same hole, which is really, really easy to do. Once we have all of our tiles cut out, I'm going to use this Waverly chalk paint in the color ink to go ahead and paint all of those black. And once we have all of those painted, we can move on to putting our numbers on them. Since these numbers are black, I'm going to use this matte white spray paint from Krylon. Just lay this down flat and spray the entire sheet until those are a nice white color. While we're waiting for those numbers to dry, we can move on to adding our little hooks. And I just bought a pack of these little suction cups, and I'm going to actually just use the hook part here. And I took a couple of these needle nose pliers and held it on both ends, and then just took it and bent the top part down so that we can glue that on. Once we have two of these hooks bent, we can move on to gluing them to the house. And an easy way to get them to look good once we're hanging the tiles is I found to hold your ruler to the very edge and then mark 2 inches in. So do it on both sides, and you'll just want to make a little mark 2 inches in, and that's where we'll glue our hook so that when we have the tiles hanging, there's a good space in between them and then on the outside of them. And since we're not gluing the hook right on the edge where we marked it, I just wanted to draw a straight line in a little ways so that once I actually went to glue these, I could just look at that line and line it up with that and glue it down. And then I'm just going to use a little bead of hot glue, place it right on that line, and then hold the hook down on there. And the easiest way to line it up is glue it right in the middle of that line and then line up the front of the hook with the front of the house. So what you don't want to do is glue it down right on the edge, right in the front of the house, because then those hooks are going to stick out in front and our tiles will be hanging out there, and I just don't think that would look quite as good. Once our numbers have dried, we can move on to placing these on the tiles. The cool thing about the spray paint is you could paint these any color that you wanted to. So if you wanted a different color for your tile, you could do that, and then a different color with the numbers. However you want to do it, there's a lot of different options. And then to center this, I just kind of looked at the hole that we drilled and tried to line the number up with that to get it as centered as possible. So if you're doing it the same way I did, you'll need 12 total of these tiles, and you'll need 2 number 1s and 2 number 2s. So if you have 11 days or 22 days, you'll need 2 of those tiles. I just think it would be easiest to put them on like number 4, number 5, paint the back, and then put another number 1 and number 2 on those. That way you have 2 of each. The other option that you could do is take some chalkboard paint, paint 2 tiles, and then you can just simply erase and change the numbers each day, and you wouldn't need all of the different tiles. And to finish everything up, we can just go ahead and hang these on here. They should just slide on, not really any problems there. And then the other cool thing that I loved how this is there's plenty of room that you can decorate this with different items. So I decided to take a little pick. This happened to be one, I believe, from Walmart. You could use Dollar Tree stuff, one of these trees that we painted white, and then another little sign from Walmart. But you can do a ton of different things and decorate it to your style, and I love how this turned out.
And for our final craft of today, we're going to grab this foam board from Dollar Tree and measure out 14 inches across. Once we have that measured, you would just need to make a line so that we know where to cut. I used this knife to cut this foam board, and I also used this metal ruler from Dollar Tree. Now that our foam board is 14 inches wide, we're going to make it 16 inches long. So measure out 16 inches and go all the way down. We're just going to do the same thing, measure out the 16 inches, draw the line, and cut the foam board. With that complete, we are going to start on the frame. With the frame, I'm going to be using these extra long skewers. They're made from bamboo and they are from Dollar Tree. I only needed 2 of them. If you can't find these, you can use just the regular skewers or you can use dowels. You will just need more of them to cover the whole frame. So what I'm going to be doing is cutting off the pointy tip of it, and then I'm going to be measuring them out. So basically we're just going to be measuring out the 14 inches for 2 of them. And then the other 2, you do want them to be slightly longer so that they cover the ends of the 14-inch ones, if that makes sense. To figure that out, I just basically lined them up and then drew a tiny little line and cut right there, and then lined it up to my other skewer and line that up and cut them the same size. Now that we have all 4 of those cut, you will want to sand them down slightly. We will want to set the foam board over to the side since we will be painting these black with the Waverly chalk paint in the color ink. When those have dried, it's time to assemble our frame. So what I'm doing is just running hot glue along the whole base of the frame, and then I am going to be putting one of the 14-inch dowels on the bottom. Some of the skewers are curved slightly, so if you just kind of hold it up to the hot glue until it dries, they do straighten out which works perfectly. So now that I have the one end done, I'm going to put the other 14-inch end on. When those two sides are done, then we just have to finish the other two sides. I just barely started doing this technique of either using dowels or skewers as the frame. Let me know what you think in the comments below. I just barely did it in this video here, and I'll link it right here. With the frame done, it's time to add the actual picture. So this I picked up at Walmart, I think for around $5, and we're only going to be using the actual deer part. There is a whole other part that says Happy Holidays, and there are little pine cones and everything, so you can get 2 signs out of this. These are meant to stick on walls, so you can take it off the foam board a few times. It doesn't rip the foam board, so that works perfectly since I don't always get it perfect the first time. What I originally tried to do is what it said, is to kind of stick it on and then peel off the backing, which did not work for me at all. It was crooked, I couldn't really tell what I was doing, so I just peeled it all up and then kind of just centered it using our very famous eyeballing technique, which we use for everything. And then since the actual deer is glittery, I just went in with this cloth and then just pushed out all the bubbles so that you don't see it in the final result. I love how this turned out, and since you can make 2 signs out of this whole thing, I only count it as being $2.50. I love, love, love that Walmart has tons of options, so definitely go check out your local Walmart and see if they have anything else that you can make a whole sign or picture out of.
Thanks for watching, guys. We hope you enjoyed today's video. If you're loving all of the Christmas DIYs, we have a lot of other videos from modern, neutral decor to some farmhouse as well. So if you're loving them, make sure to jump through. We'll have a link for our Christmas playlist that you can watch all of those other videos. And make sure to subscribe and hit that bell icon so you can be notified every time we upload a new video.